In the glittering halls of Asgard, where the Aesir dwell among shimmering towers and golden fortresses, one deity stands out not for his strength in battle nor for his cunning in schemes, but for the elegance of his words. This is Bragi, the god of poetry, song, and eloquence. Born to the sea goddess Gunnlod, or, in some versions, the giantess Iðunn, Bragi embodies the art of speech and the subtle power of persuasion. He is easily recognized by the long, flowing beard he proudly displays, symbolizing wisdom and a life steeped in stories and verse. Often seen with a harp in hand, his music and verses could stir courage, inspire love, or soothe even the fiercest anger. Bragi's lips hold magic beyond mere entertainment, his words carry the weight of history and prophecy, weaving the past into the present and echoing the fate of gods and men alike. Married to Iðunn, the keeper of the golden apples that grant eternal youth, Bragi's life is entwined with immortality, but his domain is distinctly intellectual and spiritual. In Valhalla, he is the bard of the gods, singing of heroic deeds and tragic fates, while in Midgard, he inspires skalds to carve their stories into wood and stone, ensuring that no heroic act or tragic misstep is ever truly forgotten. Yet Bragi is not merely a chronicler. His presence demands attention, for words, when spoken by him, hold power, the power to persuade, to heal, or to ignite emotions that ripple through both gods and mortals alike. Through Bragi, the Norse reminded themselves that intellect, art, and eloquence were as potent as the sword or hammer. Long ago, when the giants of Jotunheim sought to spread chaos across the 9 worlds, Odin devised a plan that involved more than brute strength. It required cunning, wit, and the soothing power of song. Bragi, renowned among the gods for his silver tongue, was summoned to Asgard's council. The giants, arrogant and loud, had begun raiding the borders of Midgard, leaving villages in ruin and sowing fear among humans and gods alike. While Thor prepared his hammer and Tyr sharpened his sword, Bragi was tasked with a more delicate mission, to face the giants in a contest of poetry, for it was said that no giant could withstand a verse that resonated with truth and insight. Bragi ventured to the edge of Jotunheim, where mountains scraped the clouds and rivers ran black with shadows. There, he found a giant named Skrymir, whose laughter could shatter trees. The giant mocked the gods, boasting that no mortal nor deity could match his strength or wit. Bragi stepped forward, harp in hand, and began a tale. He sang of the birth of the world, the forging of weapons, and the fates of heroes, each line crafted to appeal to Skrymir's pride but also to reflect the inevitable consequences of hubris. As he spoke, the giant's laughter faltered, then faded, and he found himself captivated by the beauty of Bragi's words. For hours they exchanged verses, the giant's replies clumsy and harsh, Bragi's flowing with wisdom and subtle authority. By nightfall, the contest was decided. Skrymir, humbled and enlightened, agreed to cease his raids, for he recognized the strength in Bragi's words, a force mightier than mere fists. Bragi returned to Asgard not with a trophy of conquest, but with the knowledge that intellect and artistry could avert bloodshed. This tale was sung in halls across the 9 worlds, a reminder that the power of poetry could rival even the mightiest warrior. Among the many tales of Bragi, none intertwines his fate so deeply with that of the immortals as his love for Iðunn, the guardian of the golden apples that grant eternal youth. The story begins when Loki, ever the trickster, encountered a sly giant named Thjatsi, who coveted Idunn's apples for himself. Loki, wary yet cunning, sought to protect Asgard but found himself ensnared by Thjatsi's schemes. In a daring rescue, Bragi's role, though less violent than Thor's or Odin's, became crucial. Bragi, deeply in love with Iðunn, sensed that the goddess was troubled one morning. Her usually radiant demeanor was tinged with worry. Through whispered words and careful questioning, he learned that Loki had been forced to lure her away from Asgard, for Thjatsi threatened the god's security if she refused. Determined not to let fear dictate the fate of the Aesir, Bragi devised a plan that relied not on strength, but on persuasion and cunning rhyme. Using his harp, he wove a song that recounted the virtues of loyalty, courage, and cleverness, each note designed to resonate with the heart of Iðunn and fortify her resolve. The song carried through the misty forests where Thjatsi had hidden her, reaching Idunn's ears and bolstering her courage. Guided by Bragi's words, she found the strength to resist the giant's intimidation. Meanwhile, Bragi's melody seeped into the minds of the giant's minions, sowing doubt and fear where brute force had ruled. Finally, when Thor arrived to deliver the final blow, Iðunn was able to act decisively, her resolve unbroken, ensuring her return to Asgard along with the golden apples. Bragi's song was celebrated not only for saving the goddess but for proving that eloquence could stand as a shield equal to the mightiest hammer. In the age when humans still trembled before the unknown forces of the Nine Worlds, there lived a mortal skald named Iðunn, whose verses were gifted yet never heard beyond his village. Though he could stir hearts and inspire courage with his words, he lacked guidance, and his poetry remained a hidden treasure. Bragi, watching from Asgard, felt a kinship with this young poet. He admired the fire in Eirik's mind, but he also knew that talent without direction could become aimless and squandered. One night, as the northern lights danced across the sky like threads of silver and green, Bragi descended in a form both radiant and shadowed. He appeared before Iðunn beside a frozen river, harp in hand, his beard glinting with frost. The skald, startled and awestruck, fell to his knees, unsure if he faced a god or a dream. Bragi's voice broke the silence, resonant and commanding, "Iðunn, your words can shape worlds. But without wisdom, they are like wind across the tundra. Felt, yet leaving nothing behind." Over the next weeks, Bragi became both teacher and muse. He guided Iðunn to capture the subtleties of human emotion, to weave the tales of heroes and gods alike with precision, cadence, and feeling. Iðunn learned to measure his verses like the pulse of the universe itself, where each word carried meaning beyond its sound. Bragi introduced him to the art of subtle persuasion, teaching that poetry could heal wounds, rally armies, or avert disasters, depending on the skill of the bard. One fateful winter, when a famine struck the northern lands and panic spread among villagers, Iðunn put Bragi's lessons to the test. He climbed to the frozen plateau, where he sang of courage, endurance, and shared responsibility, invoking the stories of gods who overcame adversity. His voice, honed under Bragi's guidance, carried across valleys and forests, reaching even distant settlements. Fear subsided, and people banded together to gather what meager food remained, inspired by the poet's conviction. When Iðunn returned to his village, he found the people thriving, not merely surviving. Bragi, watching from the heavens, smiled, knowing that the mortal had become a vessel for divine inspiration, a living testament to the power of poetry and guidance. In the glittering halls of Valhalla, where fallen warriors feast and prepare for the final battle of Ragnarok, Bragi's presence was essential. He was not merely a singer of past deeds, he was the chronicler who ensured that each hero's glory, sorrow, and lesson endured beyond death. One day, Odin tasked Bragi with an extraordinary challenge, to create a hall within Valhalla dedicated entirely to storytelling, where every warrior could witness the deeds of others, not just through memory but as living narratives. Bragi accepted the task, seeing it as a sacred duty. Using a combination of divine skill and artistic vision, he built a great hall with walls that shimmered like polished amber, floors that echoed footsteps like drumbeats, and ceilings painted with constellations mapping the fates of warriors. But the hall's true magic was in its voices. Bragi enchanted it so that any warrior who spoke of their deeds would have their story displayed vividly. Like a living tapestry unfolding in light and sound. Battles replayed, victories and failures danced, and the lessons of courage and honor were etched into the minds of all who entered. Yet one challenge remained. Among the honored dead was a warrior named Haldr, who had fought valiantly but never recognized the subtlety of strategy or wisdom, often relying solely on brute strength. When he entered Bragi's hall, he saw the contrast between his deeds and those of other warriors, and his pride twisted into frustration. Bragi, perceiving the struggle, approached Haldr, harp in hand, and began to weave a tale, blending Haldr's strength with lessons from cunning and foresight. The warrior listened, initially resistant, but gradually, the verses reshaped his understanding. He realized that valor alone did not define greatness, insight, patience, and reflection were equally important. The Hall of Heroes became legendary. Every warrior who entered left with not just memories, but wisdom. Bragi's influence ensured that stories were not static, they were living guides. His name spread through Valhalla as the god who honored the past while shaping the future, proving that eloquence, insight, and poetry could elevate even the mightiest warriors, teaching that the power of words rivaled even the sharpest sword or heaviest hammer. In the shadowed hours before the inevitable twilight of the gods, known as Ragnarok, Bragi felt a weight unlike any other. The gods had long known that their end was destined, that the earth and heavens would quake and heroes would fall. Yet in the face of doom, Bragi's role was singular, to preserve the memory of gods, giants, and mortals alike, and to give voice to courage even in despair. He began composing what would become the Song of Ragnarok, a melody that would echo across the 9 worlds even as the cosmos trembled. Bragi wandered the realms, listening to whispers of mortal bravery, the laments of the dying forests, and the roar of waves against jagged cliffs. Every verse he composed was imbued with sorrow, hope, and defiance. He captured the deeds of Thor as he clashed with Jormungandr, the struggles of Frey and the cunning of Loki, even the quiet sacrifices of mortals caught in the tides of destiny. Each note of his harp resonated with both tragedy and triumph, for Bragi knew that to forget even a single act of valor would dishonor the fabric of existence. As the first fires of Ragnarok ignited the skies, Bragi ascended a high cliff above Asgard, his song rising to meet the chaos. The giants roared, wolves hunted the fallen, and the earth split asunder, yet Bragi's music carried above the cacophony. Gods and mortals alike felt its pull, their hearts steadied, their courage rekindled, if only for fleeting moments. Even Odin, perceiving the inevitability of his fate, paused to listen, understanding that Bragi's song was more than a chronicle, it was a shield for the soul, a reminder that deeds of honor and acts of wisdom transcend even the end of the world. When the final battle claimed its victims, Bragi remained a witness and a scribe, singing aloud each story of heroism and each lesson wrought from tragedy. His melody preserved the essence of those who had fought bravely, ensuring that their courage would be remembered in Midgard, Asgard, and beyond. It was said that in the new world to rise after Ragnarok, survivors would hear echoes of Bragi's song in the whispering winds and flowing rivers, inspiring them to rebuild, to honor the past, and to cherish eloquence and wisdom as treasures equal to life itself. Thus Bragi, god of poetry, became the eternal voice of history and destiny, proving that even in the shadow of destruction, the power of words could endure, immortalizing courage, wisdom, and beauty for generations yet to come.